Hello, everybody. Pastor Rick here, Broadman Baptist Church in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. This is the Broadman word for uh, March, Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. What a marvelous day to be a Christian, huh? The sun is shining, skies are clear, we've got some decent temperatures. Right on the edge of spring here, the time change is coming, so we'll have more daylight and all kinds of good things happening in creation. Great time to be alive. Great time to notice all of creation and God's provision. And a great time to be thankful for it all. What an amazing God we serve. What an amazing providing God we have. If you think about it, all of the things that happen on any given day that God is in charge of and provides for us is just mind blowing. And we should never cease to be in awe of it just because it's so dependable and that we're so used to it. These should be things that make us even more grateful for who God is, because we don't have to think about our provision and our grace. So today I want to talk to you about moving forward, about getting ready to go. We've been talking in church a lot about Joshua and the Israelites and them being on the plains of Moab, and the courage that was needed to finally get into a situation where it's time to go. They're going to cross the mighty Jordan. They're not sure how yet, but they know they're going to do it with Joshua, and that they're going to trust in the provision of God. And of course, we know that like he parted the Red Sea for them, he also parted the Jordan River. What an amazing hand of God moment that must have been when they were able to finally cross into the land they were promised and take possession, or start to take possession of it. And not of their own strength, though. There were fortified cities and people and armies and all kinds of things that were going to oppose them. So this was going to be done with God's strength. So what did they do to prepare? How did they get ready? Joshua, 3 days ahead of time, told his officers to go and tell people to collect up their things and be ready to move. And so they did. Well, for us, we're going to have an experience moving forward when you decide to charge off into this land called America and try to make a difference based on being a Christian and cross the Jordan, theoretically anyway, and get out into the promised land to start to take what God had ordained back and to prosper the kingdom regardless of what the circumstances. So for us then, we have to have the same expectation that the Israelites had. If you think about it, with who they were and what they'd been through, they were just counting on a God thing. They weren't well armed, weren't well trained, had been in the desert quite some time, and they had one leader and some officers, but not exactly a well-equipped fighting force, certainly not lethal, and certainly not able to, on their own strength and provision, just go marching into Canaan and say, this is ours now. That would have been a disastrous result. But what they very quickly found is that as they went along, and as a people demonstrating their faith in God and trusting God, that there was folks that saw what was in them. This is very important. Not folks necessarily militarily concerned about them, but concerned about the God they saw in them. One of the places that they came to, Jericho, appeared to be quite well fortified. But when Joshua sent some spies forward to check out the land, and they found Rahab, a prostitute, a well-known one, but still a prostitute, and they attempted to sneak in there so that they could get a lay of the land, so to speak, so they could find out what was inside Jericho. They were spotted. A couple of Jewish guys stuck out pretty easily and caught the notice of some locals, and the locals went to the king and said, "Hey, we may have a problem here." And so Rahab hid them in her roof line and then lied to the king's soldiers for them, saying that they had just missed them and that they were only minutes away and that they should go chase them. And so the spies found out from Rahab that the people of Jericho had heard about them, had heard about how they walked across the Red Sea under God's provision, and how they had spent time in the desert, and how they had persevered, and how God had gone before them, and how he was providing for them. And the people in Jericho were scared. They were not ready to deal with this God. And then Rahab herself, as we'll find out later, turns her life over and wants to be part of this thing that is the movement taking Canaan. We should expect things to not be necessarily as we first see them. When we get ready to go into answering this question, we need to just do it based on our relationship with God, what we know God to be. So first, shoring that up, getting that strong and trusting and well-informed and a real part of who you are and what your life is. Then having the expectation of provision, that can then ease any weariness or intrepidation about moving forward with sharing the gospel and showing the gospel through you. But people are going to see it first before they hear it, hopefully. And seeing that in you, some are going to be curious and come to hear. Some are going to be not so interested and rebuff. And then there's going to be those that are maybe a little scared. But the point is, there will be folks that you collect along the way. There will be converts. And there will be folks that you may have thought of as enemies that are actually going to end up being a help to you. Rahab would have certainly been counted as a foe to these spies, but because of what was in them and what their reputation was, being God-led, she decided to help. In fact, committed a pretty serious crime by hiding them, followed that up with an even more serious crime by lying to the king's soldiers. So, I guess the moral of this is then, first, develop a trusting relationship with God. Second, use that trust to give you strength to cross the Jordan into Canaan. Metaphorically speaking, of course. And then don't place limitations on God. Expect there to be all kinds of folks that you meet, all kinds of folks with all kinds of different reactions. But the fortunate thing is, you don't have to change for each of these situations. You have to keep doing the same thing that you have always supposed to have done. Carry out your individual mission with the gifts given to you in the manner prescribed by God, acting out His will for your life in the kingdom and bringing light to the darkness with your actions, your life being a sermon played out before the masses, with your words and your deeds. And then be ready for those to come, because they will come, because God will bring them, because He went before you and picked some out that He wanted, and then delivered to you so that they could see and hear his plea to them through you. Then he will call. Then you just need to let God be God and continue on with what it is you're supposed to be doing. Hey, I love you. I hope you have a marvelous day. And please, get ready to go. Get ready to take the Jordan. Get ready to go into Canaan and be ready to collect some souls. We can't save anybody, but we can sure be a tool for God to do it. Take care. We'll see you next time.